Hi guys, Bearded Rogue here again, and back with another BGGCon video. So this video, I'm gonna go through some of the larger games that I played, specifically the three 4-hour long games that I played over the course of the convention. So the first one is Terraforming Mars. And Terraforming Mars was taught to me by Patrick Hillier. If you ever can get him to teach you a game, do. He's an extremely good teacher. This is a game that has a lot of stuff going on. Every single card in it is unique. But he didn't just teach us like what the basic mechanics of the game were. He taught us how to read it for ourselves, and that really helped. So I highly recommend playing a game with him just in general, but if you can get him to teach you a game, that's even better. So Terraforming Mars, I was the worst person at Terraforming Mars. I apparently missed that the word terraforming was in the name of the game. So while everybody else was placing lakes and trees and various other things on Mars, I was just raising the temperature and blowing holes in the surface of it. I also built a fence at one point. I put up a restricted area. But even so, absolute blast of a game. It's longer than what I could normally play at a game night, so I don't know how I feel about owning it yet. It's definitely a game I would not turn down playing, especially at a larger convention where there was more time. It was a lot of fun. It's a really good game. Like, the hype is real. I will also say that complaints about the component quality are real. Patrick had his player boards laminated, and we used dry erase markers to keep track of things rather than the cubes that could be bumped or moved. This is actually, this game, I own Eclipse, and I really like Eclipse, and with this game it's actually a little bit more egregious than Eclipse, because in Eclipse you have numbers of components equal to the number of spaces. In this, they're sliders, so it's much easier to misplace where they were or misremember where they were, whereas in Eclipse you can kind of count the cubes or the discs and see where you're supposed to be at. In addition, it seems to be like the player boards seem to be a slicker finish, so it's easier for stuff to slide around. So I highly recommend some sort of solution regarding the player boards. Whether it's the game trays, super nifty vacuum-formed player boards, or something just as simple as what Patrick did and laminate them and use dry erase markers. That worked perfectly. No complaints whatsoever with that way of playing the game. The resource cubes, the metallic-looking plastic resource cubes, are really interesting. I've never seen another game use have all their resources use the same type of cube and just have the different cube sizes and colors stand for different quantities before. It's probably been done somewhere else, but this is the first time I've seen it, and it's really neat. It's a really good idea to save on component costs, but the player boards being the way they are, makes it so that it's somewhat risky as far as where those are located on the player board denotes what they are, and if that's bumped, that can cause all sorts of problems. Anyway, enough about the components. It's a really good game. It's sort of a tableau builder, but it's really cool because every card is completely unique, and you're building your tableau out of the cards that you get, and that creates some really interesting dynamics, because I can't imagine any of the games of this being the same. In addition, we played with the corporations that had different powers rather than the starter corporations, and they really do add to the strategy while not forcing you down a path. For example, I played Thorgate, and Thorgate has discounts for any card with the little lightning bolt power icon on them. They get to play them for 3 cheaper. And while I did do a little bit of that, and it helped in my heat generation, it wasn't even the core of my strategy as far as what I was building. I ended up going pretty heavy science by the end of it, as far as that goes. And microbes. Lots and lots of microbes. I was living in a dirty hole that I blew in the surface of Mars. a dirty wormhole. Anyway, I'm not going to go down that path any further. Let's just suffice it to say that Terraforming Mars was a really good game. I'm very glad I got a chance to play it. It was on tables everywhere. Frick's Games, Stronghold Games, should be very, very happy with the success that it's achieving, even with some of the complaints about component quality. You know, what are you going to do? It's already a pretty expensive game. I played that game with Daniel Hallstad, Daniel Wood, Patrick Hillier, and Ryan LaFlamme, and all of them were awesome. I would game with every single one of them again. I think the only one of them that I did game with again was Daniel Wood, but they were all super cool dudes, and Daniel Hallstad, we'll get to the next game on my list, actually taught Great Western Trail to me. Great Western Trail was a game that I was not at all interested in, I'll be quite honest. I'm not a big fan of Western themes. I'm not a big fan of how, I guess, dangerous that time period can be from a PC perspective. I mean, whether it's, you know, pre or post Civil War issues of slavery and referring to people as Indians and all sorts of other problematic things can crop up. I'm happy to say that this was not an issue for this game. This game very much did not focus on any of that kind of stuff, and I really enjoyed my time playing this game. All 4 hours of it. It's a long game. That's the first thing I will say. This is not a game that I could play at any game night that I personally have. It's far too long to fit into a standard evening game night, and I don't have enough, like, full weekends of gaming that I would want to get this to the table instead of 2 or 3 other games. But I'm very glad I got a chance to play it. The mechanics, the mechanisms inside of it are really clever. It's basically a multipath rondel that looks like a map. So you can move your little cowboy figure a certain number of spaces, and all of the stuff on the board, whether it's neutral buildings, other players' buildings, or hazards, count as places that you have to stop at along your way. And so you kind of map your path out each time you go from the starting space up to Kansas City where you're selling your cattle. And each place you land on does various things. Some of the things cost you money to go through, like the hazards or some of the other players' buildings. Several of the buildings, including your own, give you special actions you can take, whether that's hiring more workers for your player board, or upgrading your cattle in your hand, or in your deck, rather, or moving your train further along the train tracks at the top of the map and everything. Like, there's so many different interlocking pieces, but all of them are tied to the map. And so it starts out with you moving 4 spaces and just kind of cruising through the map. And then as players build buildings, or as hazards come out or taken away, the pathway that you want to take changes. And it really alters your strategy quite a bit where things are placed. I think with good building placement, you could cause some really interesting decisions to crop up as to whether you're going to just, okay, fine, I'll pay you some money as a toll to get through here, rather than, you know, go through the path with like 37 hazards. 37 is a total exaggeration, but you know what I'm saying. Like, the various different paths all have unique challenges to them, and where people place their buildings can really shake up the total makeup of the board and which pathway you want to use. So that's really cool and really neat. But yeah, multipath customizable rondel with a slight deck building element. In this case, the deck is your cattle that you're selling. When you get up to Kansas City, you can sell the one of each color of cow, so you want to have a hand that doesn't match at all, if at all possible. And a lot of the different buildings on the board will let you discard cows of particular colors in order to get benefits. Sometimes you'll actually be specifically getting additional cows of particular colors so that you can use those buildings. Other times you just want to like cull your deck down so that you do not have any cows that are the same color, so that you're always going to be able to sell your maximum amount at Kansas City when you get there. You can upgrade your hand size, you can upgrade the amount of spaces you can move. I ended up winning the game, even though nobody at the table, including myself, believed that that was the case. I only won by 3 points. And I think a large reason why I won was because I upgraded the amount of spaces that I could move, so I could make an extra turn in at Kansas City above what everybody else got to do. I think that made all the difference in the world, and it was really that close. Now, I only scored 72 points, and I'm given to understand that while that's a decent score for like a first playthrough, a lot of people on subsequent playthroughs are scoring like 150, 160 points. So it's not a great score for the game, but it's a pretty decent score for the first play, and all of us had a lot of fun, even though we were mostly falling asleep. I played this game with Daniel Wood, Daniel Newman, and John Moeller. Again, awesome people, and I would play with all of them. And Daniel did a great job of explaining to us how to play. We didn't have to ask him any questions after his initial explanation, so it was really easy to actually get in and play the game once we got down to it. And then the last game that I'll talk about, the final long game that I played, was Grand Austria Hotel. And Grand Austria Hotel, I will say, doesn't have to be a long game, but it really was a long game. And it's because we played it with 4 players. It was myself, Chris Rowlands, Aaron Deneau, and Maddie Christensen. Play games with these guys. These guys are awesome. I played a lot of games with them over the course of the weekend. It was really easy to just kind of keep playing whatever they were going to play, because I had a really good time playing with them. But Grand Austria Hotel is not a game I would ever play again with 4 players. It uses a snake-like turn order, so the first person goes, and then the second, and then the third, and then the fourth. And then the fourth gets to go again, and then the third, and then the second, and then the first. So the amount of downtime between when the first player takes their first action and when the first player takes their second action is long enough that you could potentially play another game. And part of that is because the board state changes so much in between player turns. So it's a dice drafting game. Like, there's a pool of dice that are rolled and placed into various actions, and each die allows you to take an action. Each number on the die allows you to take an action, but it lets you take it a number of times equal to the other dice that are the same number as it. So as dice are drafted, the value of the dice change, which means that it's really hard to evaluate what you're going to do exactly unless you're that fourth player who has those back-to-back turns, so you can kind of set yourself up, and it's very clear what the board state's going to be. In addition, there's a row of the customers that you can bring in to your hotel, the line will change multiple times between your turns, because at the beginning of every turn, the first thing you can do is take a customer, and everybody can have up to 3 customers. So there's a very good shot that by the time it gets back around to you as the first player, none of the customers who are in the line are the same as the customers that were in the line when you started your turn. It generates an AP problem. I understand there's variant turn order rules online. I'd have to look at them, but I don't think I would ever play it with 4 players again. However, this game would be a joy to play with 2 players. Like, absolutely amazing 2-player game. I think it could even be a good 3-player game. Simply because there wouldn't be as much changing on the board, and it wouldn't take as long to get back around to your turn. But it's a really good game. All 3 of them, Terraforming Mars, Great Western Trail, and Grand Austria Hotel, were great games that I only got to play, really, because of BGGCon and the amount of time there was to play games. I don't normally get to sit down to a 4-hour game. It's not something that I can indulge in very often. And even were I to try to do so, a lot of the people that I game with wouldn't be interested in doing that with me. I have some people who would much rather play an 8-hour game, but most of the people in my group are looking for more varied experiences in a game day than just let's sit down and play one game for 4 hours. Either way, all three were great games. All of the people that I played with were amazing. All the people who taught the games were amazing. Aaron did most of the teaching for Grand Austria Hotel. Chris and Maddie both helped. I think they'd all played it before, or at least they were familiar with the game, much more familiar than I was. But all great games. I highly recommend them. I highly recommend Grand Austria Hotel as a 2-player or 3-player game. Don't play it with 4 unless you're using variant turn order rules, and even then, I haven't tried them, so don't take that as gospel. Great Western Trail, I recommend you play it. It may not be for everyone, but if you've got a large enough chunk of time to play it, I highly suggest it. And Terraforming Mars is one that I think I would probably suggest the most out of the 3. Other than its component issues, it definitely appeals to me the most as a card gamer and an engine builder kind of guy. I think that it could be played a lot faster than we did. Once everybody knows how to play the game, I don't think it would take that long to play, really. I could imagine getting this one down to 2 hours, like, easy. It just doesn't seem like it would be that long of a game with players who know what they're doing, or with components that don't fight you at all. Anyway, all 3 of them, great games, highly recommend them, and those were the long games that I played at BGGCon. So, I'll go into some of the other games that I played at BGGCon, some of the more memorable ones, some of the more different and interesting ones, in another video, and then, again, I'm planning on having a video of prototypes that I played, and then another one about my prototypes and how they did as far as gameplay and pitches. Anyway, that's it for this video. Bearded Rogue, out.